serving both residential and commercial properties. The one-time plumber office is located at 509 South Gila County, and the number is 928-267-3411.
And thank you to One Time Plumber for sponsoring our KRIM Community Spotlight Program. Good morning, Rim Country. Chris Higgins in the studio. Hope you're having a great Wednesday morning. And we're again broadcasting live from the Sawmill Theater Complex. Hope everyone is ready for the Rim Country Western Film Festival that's coming up starting August 9th, going to the 13th, right before our world's oldest continuous rodeo. Well, in the studio this morning we have District 1 Supervisor Steve Christensen. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you so much for coming in each month to give us updates on Gila County and what's happening in the county.
Sure, yeah.
And
glad to do it.
Yeah, know that you can listen on the radio or watch us on our KRIM Radio Facebook page, the live stream as well. And you're more than welcome to hey, chime in, ask some questions, have a comment. Be happy to answer questions. But hey, a lot of things happening. I think one of the big things, the election, recent election. So congratulations.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, re-elected to another term.
Yes, all 3 supervisors were re-elected.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I'm happy to serve another 4 years.
There we go.
Yeah.
So you wanted to talk a little bit about the maybe the election process, and also here in Payson with our council, the council seats. Boy, what a crazy outcome.
Well, the narrow margins were really narrow.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Well, to think that where it sits currently, 3 votes separate 4 candidates.
Yes, and that is just so, I don't know that we'd be able to duplicate that ever again, but
No.
that just shows you how even people's votings were. But not enough people voted, quite honestly.
Oh, yeah.
If you ever have the attitude that your vote does not count, think of whether or not just a few more people voting could have changed the results.
Oh yeah, this election is a great example of that, because 1 vote basically separated 2 candidates. The candidate who currently is in the 3rd spot position and the 4th position. 1 vote.
1 vote difference, yeah.
So I think you wanted to talk about a little bit about recount, because there is a recount that's going to happen. A meeting has been scheduled for canvassing the vote tomorrow, 4 o'clock here in Payson. And we will be accepting, the votes, and Steve Otto, recognized as getting mayor, the position of mayor, Jim Ferris, the 2-year council seat. But then the other council seats.
The other 3 are still, that's what really is going to matter in the recount.
Yes.
So what I'm hoping for is that the tabulator will, that the count will come out exactly the same, and then we can have more confidence in the tabulator. I don't know why it would come out differently.
Yeah.
But if it does, then I'm going to have questions. Why did it come out differently? What happened the first time around, or what happened the second time around? Why didn't it come out exactly the same? Because we need to be able to trust our machinery.
Yes.
And trusting the vote itself seems to be a challenge for a lot of people right now because of the last few years in voting and what seems different, strange, or not right. So we have early voting, and we have mail-in voting and drop-off voting. All of that occurs, and then on the Friday before the election day, Tuesday, so about 3 days before, 4 days before the actual in-person voting day, which was last Tuesday, a week ago. Then on Friday, then that's when Eric Mariscal and his team, which there's only 2 people in the elections department, they start tabulating all of the early votes, okay? But they don't publish those because it's not election day yet. So they get a head start on counting. And they may or may not finish that on Friday. And then Saturday, Sunday, they don't count. Everybody's got the day off. And then Monday, the day before voting, they're working hard to get set up, so there's not a lot of counting, if any, on Monday. And then they continue their counting on Tuesday, and then the results come in Tuesday night, and then they're counting, and so they have subsequent then reports. The report will be, this is where we're at, these are the current numbers, but it's unofficial at this point. And then they update that later as they continue to count, and then as they continued to count through Wednesday, and then they got into Thursday, they finished all of their counting, and then published those results. And as a result of those new published, some of the numbers changed, some of the winners changed. And there was 14 ballots that the recorder's office still held at that point on Thursday last week because they were verifying signatures. Okay, and so it just goes to show you that they are doing their job. They're not just saying, oh, someone mailed something in, let's just go ahead and count it. They want to make sure that all of those mail-ins or drop-offs are real people with a real signature, etc. And so if they have any question, they call that person to come in. And if they don't come in, that vote doesn't get counted. And so then those votes ended up getting finalized through the weekend, and then another number came out, I think it was Monday then, if I know my timeline.
Yep.
So then on that Monday, then we end up with pretty much everyone is decided, except for the 3 council seats, which actually are decided, but then the town clerk, the Payson town clerk, has the right to ask for a recount, and that's really to make sure that those very, very narrow margins are accurate.
Well, and now I was told also it's a state statute. It's not even the town requesting a recount, but it's a state statute that if the final numbers are within 0.5%,
Okay.
that the state requires a recount.
Okay.
So it's required regardless of how it ends up. If it's within, those votes are within 0.5%, which definitely they are, 3 votes.
Yeah.
Separating 4 candidates with, what was it, I think 15,000 votes cast for those council seats. So yeah, that's just insane with that many votes cast to be 4 candidates to be within 3 votes of each other.
Yeah, the initial reporting was rather amazing. They were within about 10 or 11 votes of each other on the initial report.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty astonishing, and then it got down to 1. So
Yeah.
4 candidates all within a couple of votes of each other. So the county, as a courtesy, I mean, we charge for it, but as a courtesy, we do the town of Payson elections. So that is an option for us to do, and so whenever we require, I think it's required that the town clerk initiate the recount, whether it's through the state or not. I don't know the legal.
Yeah, in the meeting tomorrow, yeah, that will be part of the resolution.
Okay, so they're gonna run that tomorrow. And so here's the schedule. At 10 o'clock Friday morning, the Board of Supervisors will have a meeting with one subject, and that is to canvass the election results. And we will be canvassing the election results minus the recount, okay? The original election results that were on Monday or whatever, that's what we will canvass. And then at 11:30, I think it is, on Friday, then Judge Wright will then canvass the recount numbers. And it'll go through him through the courts.
Gotcha.
And so if those numbers stay the same, or if those numbers change, it is up to Judge Wright to canvass that. And what that means is to just say, this is the result of the counting. And then from there, once it's canvassed, both on our side and his side, then if there's any challenges legally, then they can go after it at that point. But right now, it's still basically sort of an unofficial thing until we do what's called canvassing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's boy, quite the process, and when results are this close. Oh my goodness.
Well, at least on those 3 seats.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't change anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're only going to recount the Payson that is pertinent to the Payson Council votes.
Yeah, and that was the only, this was the only race in the county that was that close.
Yes.
Where there needs to be, or there is going to be a recount.
Everything else was pretty much clear winners. And everyone in the county, all the elected officials in the county, basically, they're all the same. They just all held their office. So there was no changes there.
There we go. So you brought with you the 2023 annual report, Gila County Positive Progress. This is something new, isn't it?
Well, it's something we do every year.
Okay.
And this is the 2023 report.
Okay.
And so 2023, you got to understand, runs all the way until this last July 31st. So it's sort of like the 2023-2024 report.
Or June 30th.
And then next, June,
July 1st,
June.
yeah.
And then July 1st, we start a new fiscal year and a new report. And they will call that one the 2024. But it will go into 2025. And it's really good to get. You can get these down at the county facility. We have them in the lobby.
Nice.
But it talks about some of the projects we've done that we're doing. It talks about different departments and some of the people in those departments. And it shows you the Board of Supervisors and some of the various things that we're doing. So it kind of gives you an overview of what we've been doing for the last year or so. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and so it's free, so you can just grab it and take a look and read up on it. It's very interesting. It talks about the bridge and the various projects that we're working on. And I think this coming year here, as we're going into this new fiscal year, we're going to have some challenges with capital improvements. So we have a lot of buildings and a lot of parking lots and various things that the county owns that are starting to get a little, well, they need attention. And that attention usually means a lot of dollars. So we have to start deciding. Well, here's a page that you found that actually is in everyone. So they actually have a pie chart and they have a bar chart and they have kind of a dollar bill here, and it shows you basically when you're paying taxes where each dollar goes percentage wise throughout the county. So these would be averages. So in other words, the Payson School District and all the other school districts are in this right here, which is what they call the schools. And so it is the highest taxing district, districts, should I say, or the high taxing entity in the county. And it kind of just shows you how that all goes. So I'm not sure where Payson is versus, say, Globe when it comes to this percentage, but this is an average throughout the county.
Yeah, and this is for property taxes, just so.
Yeah, this is property taxes that you will pay according to your assessed value.
No, there you go. A lot of great information in here. And you said you could pick these up at the county building?
Yeah, the new county building, the Tommy Klein Martin building, they're right there in the lobby.
Okay.
But I think they're also in other locations like community development and the court and the health department. They've been kind of put around to the various locations. So pick one up. It kind of shows you what's going on in the north, the south, and everything in between. And
there you go.
It's good. I think Gila County is one, or if the best county really in the state. We have a lot going for us here. And we're doing a lot, and we have a lot of people that just love Gila County. We have a lot of visitors, which is good. A lot of tourists, which is good. They bring and spend their money, so that helps. That helps everybody.
Yeah. So what else going on in the county? What other things?
Well, we just finished the bridge. Okay, that's kind of old news now, and so that's being done. We've had a few fires, but I don't believe any structures were lost. I think we've been able to do that, but a few highways closed here and there, kind of. Down south going on 87, that got closed. That's not a county thing, but we did have some fires in Tonto Basin few days ago and actually had to go to a set mode.
Oh, yeah, which was just lifted at, when was that? 7 o'clock, was it this morning? I think for Tunnel Basin.
Yeah, it's interesting. I drove through there yesterday and there was like no evidence of smoke or anything, so they kind of had it really stamped out yesterday. And I could see where it burned though. They had slurry, they had dropped and things, so. Yeah, so we've had a few fires and hopefully now we won't have catastrophic rain to make, the flooding be a problem, because that sometimes comes, but anyway, everything's proceeding pretty well. Like I said, the biggest challenges we're going to have going forward now, since we no longer have any, like I call it extra money, COVID money, it's like they gave us some money. Yeah. Well, we've used that money very wisely, I believe, but we still have a lot of capital improvements and things that need to be done. Like a lot of them are in the south, because that's where the oldest buildings that we have are, and where the county seat is. So there's a lot of infrastructure down there where people work, and buildings that are just enormous, and then the roof maintenance, air conditioning, electrical, then there's the parking lots and the various things that have not really been maintained on the kind of schedule that I would like to see. So we have some new people now that are looking more closely at coming up with spending programs and maintenance programs where we're not letting things go for 10 years. We say, look, every 5 years we need to put something on this pavement, then we need to budget for that, and not just wait for 20 years and then say, look, it's so bad now we have to spend 5 times more to replace it all. So we're kind of faced with past decision making at this point.
Gotcha.
So, but financially we're doing well. We haven't raised taxes. There's no plan to do that at all. So all of the taxing districts that are under the purview of the Board of Supervisors, we have not raised any taxes. They maintain the same over the last several years. So fortunately the building has increased, there's been more building. So, and then the assessed valuations have gone up some, and so because of that, we're able to just kind of keep everything level. Stay within our budget. Yeah.
So I see there's what is happening here in Payson Courthouse remodel that is taking place, right?
Yes, and that is COVID money. So that's going to be, gosh, what was that? Over $1 million. But we're going to be doing a pretty extensive remodel at the old courthouse, which used to be the Bishop building, I guess. And so not the new building, not the new TCM building, we're not remodeling that, but the old one where most of the court really conducts a lot of its business. We're going to be adding onto the building in the front and making a better entrance area. Something that is more usable, public friendly, and I can't remember whether we're putting in an elevator or not. There was some talk about that. We may not be putting in an elevator, I can't remember, because the elevator, we're looking north of $500,000 for an elevator. And so, do we need an elevator? Well, we want an elevator. We've lived with it without an elevator. So, but what that does is it creates more of an issue for anyone that has a handicap to get upstairs. So then you start saying, well, then our upstairs need to be utilized in such a way where we don't need to have that elevator. And so it limits the use.
Gotcha.
However, if we can't afford it, we can't afford it. We're a small county.
And one of the other things I know when you're looking at older buildings, bringing them up to ADA compliance. That's another issue and an expensive one, where the new building, the new county building was built to ADA compliance, but older buildings, when you're looking at remodeling them, then there has to be, or there should be at least, that consideration of ADA compliance, because if there isn't, then you're just kicking the can down the road, because eventually it has to be, the building has to be brought up to ADA compliance.
Yes, and so you can be grandfathered in for quite a long time, but at some point you're going to need to do a remodel. And if you do a remodel, then yes, everything needs to come back up to code. And so that's where things start getting really expensive. And you say, look, all we want to do is add on a little bit onto this building. I said, well, no, now you have to create ADA compliance and all that, and that's where it starts getting really expensive. And that's why you see some of the older restaurants, like even here in town, older restaurants that have pretty small bathrooms or small doorways into the bathroom or whatever. It's because they're obviously not really ADA compliant. That's the way it was built back in 1950 something. And if they do a remodel, they're going to be required to bring all that up to standard, and they either can't afford it or there's no room for that or whatever, so they just kind of live with it. And so it's kind of grandfathered in for a while.
One of the, I think, recent examples, not so much ADA, but we see that with the 260 Cafe being shut down, and because of health department issues and just not being up to code when it comes to the health department.
Well, I will say this, I know a little bit about that. So the health department works with owners and says, okay, you have some issues, these are what the issues are, and you need to address them. And the issues that were at the 260 were addressed months ago, and but they were not complied with, either completely or in part. And so then more serious action happens. You have to protect the public from foodborne illness. And if your temperatures are not right, or if your food products are being stored where they can get dirty or have a problem, or your cooking facility is not clean, you have to comply. The public should have the ability to know that they're going into a restaurant where they're not going to get sick from the food because it's not right. And I've seen the pictures of what's going on in that particular restaurant, and there's been others. I'm not going to pick on anybody, but it's either you need to comply with the health department, or you're not going to be able to operate your business that way.
Yeah, and like you said, it comes down to older buildings. When you have older buildings, and if they aren't upgraded, or the money isn't put into them, isn't invested into the building to keep it at a certain standard, then eventually it's something major is going to have to be done. And it's very expensive.
And a lot of it depends on cleanliness, and then some of it depends on just the slow deterioration of the flooring or the drywall, and things are falling, things are open, things are have access to rodents or whatever. You can't have any of that. So you have to, if you're going to run that kind of a business, you have to run it by the rules.
And then in some situations, I think in the case of 260, if the restaurant doesn't own the building, then there's that issue as well, because the restaurant can only do maybe so much. There's so much they can do, and they feel like, well, we don't own the building, so we're not going to invest tens of thousands of dollars in the building that we don't own. We feel that is the responsibility of the building owner. But then some building owners, property owners, say, no, we're not going to do that. It's your business. You're in there, so you make that investment. So it can be unfortunate sometimes.
It can be. So the only thing I try and protect the public from is and I don't believe this is happening, but where there is an impression of, or where there could be an occurrence where our inspectors are being overly policing, or they're being antagonistic or vengeful in some way. That's what I want to make sure is not happening. I don't believe it is happening at all, but there is the impression that sometimes it is. Because, you know, we give people a chance, we let them know the rules, we let them know how it works. They're not happy with the rules, and they want to do it their own way, and that usually never ends up right. So what I would encourage anyone that owns a business or anything, if you think you're being treated unfairly, then yes, say something. Call me, that's fine, if you think you're being treated unfairly. Every case that I've checked into, though, where people felt that way, it was just more or less a misunderstanding, a miscommunication, a misinterpretation of what was needed or wanted, and we kind of worked through it.
That's usually what it comes down to, is the communication, lack of communication.
Yes,
or
a misunderstanding of,
yeah.
you know, I thought what you meant was this, or, you know, you told me that, or, and then they get very frustrated and angry. And so we deal, probably when it comes to the food business or the health department, and the county is responsible for all of that, whether it's in the town of Payson, Star Valley, or any other incorporated area. And we inspect all of that, everything from the fast foods to the, you know, everything.
To events.
To
So
Circle K.
Well, and to events. There's health inspectors at almost every event. So the rodeo, concerts in the park, July 4th, whatever the event, any of the food vendors out there have to, you know, be inspected. And maybe it's not every event, but at some point, a health inspector will, you know, inspect your setup.
Well,
Say,
you
okay,
can-
what are you doing here?
You can really injure someone with foodborne illness. I mean, you can
Oh, yeah.
kill them, I suppose,
Yeah.
with the bacteria and stuff. So yeah, yeah, it's important that we do that. And so it's just important that you take the attitude of, okay, what do I need to do? Can you help me get through this? And generally speaking, we are of the mindset of helping you get through it and giving you enough time to take care of it.
Yeah, that was, I know, when we had Scoops, my experience with inspectors, and he is no longer with us, but Michael Lemon, he did a great job as county health inspector, and he unfortunately passed away in a car accident on 260 out there east of Star Valley. But it was a case where, okay, here's the issue, and here's why it's an issue. And so now, you know, this is maybe a way you can comply, or here's a few ways. And he was always very willing to, you know, work with us and others that, you know, in Payson or in the area that we had heard about, you know, their experience. So, and I think that has always been the case.
Well, I think a lot of people watch a Hallmark movie and think that, you know, you can just do whatever you want, and, you know, you just rent a building and start up your coffee shop or bakery or whatever. There's a lot more to it than that, you know, because there's problems with the drainage, whether or not grease is going down into the system. It's the threat of fire. If you have a fire on some cooking surface, what is going to stop that fire from burning the building down, or damaging your neighbors, or even threatening life within the restaurant? So your exits, the temperature of your water, the temperature of your refrigerator, your freezer, the temperature of your oils, you know, how long does food sit out, you know, in the open? How well are things packed up? Are things on shelves? Are things sitting on the floor? You know, are there rodents of any sort? You know, you know, all of these things. So it's a difficult job to have a restaurant or a food serving thing. But if you are going to do that, you just, I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's not a mystery.
Yeah, and one thing you said, like the charm of it, there is that charm, and old buildings have that charm as well. But along with that charm, they usually have a lot of issues, because they are older buildings, and if they haven't been kept up properly, then that's going to create a lot of extra work. It's going to create extra costs, probably some headaches for that owner.
Yeah. Restaurants are probably one of the most expensive endeavors to do. They require a lot of time, a lot of your energy. It's expensive to keep things fresh and going. It takes a lot of employees. I suppose the rewards are great as well, but that's one of the things, if you want to work all the time, then
With a
that's the
restaurant.
business for you.
Yeah, go into the food industry. Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, it's 10:30, so thank you, Steve,
Wow.
for coming in. I know, goes quick, always.
Yeah.
Always good things to
Well,
talk about.
thank you, Chris.
And yeah, thank you, and thank you everyone for listening and watching. And also thank you to One Tom Plumber for sponsoring our KRIM Community Spotlight program. Time to get back to the music with some Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, ZZ Top, Rolling Stones, and more. But first, let's get a quick update from the National Weather Service.
With this morning's KRIM weather.
There we go. All right. See you guys.